Hello friends, welcome to the lecture series on networks and cybersecurity. We are discussing the concepts from IP security from module 3. Previously we have discussed the concepts from ESP, that is encapsulating security payload, and the combinations of different security associations we have considered previously. So in this particular video, we'll consider the concept of internet key exchange and the cryptographic suits. Myself, Avilash KJ, Assistant Professor, Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, will guide you guys through the session. So the contents we'll be discussing in this particular video are the internet key exchange, under which we'll consider the key determination protocol. We'll consider the header and payload formats of internet key exchange, and subsequently we'll consider the other concept, which is cryptographic suits. All these concepts I have referred from cryptography and network security principles and practice from William Stallings. So coming to internet key exchange, as we have considered the other two techniques are the part of at the start of IP security backgrounds and understanding. Somewhere both the concept of providing confidentiality service involves the process of encryption. Since most of the operation here makes use of either it is symmetric or asymmetric symmetric key encryption, the key distribution and key management is one of the key features which plays a major role in the proper functioning of the network. So thus the key management in the IPsec here involves two different aspects of the key management. There are two different aspects of key management that is involved. So one is the determination of the keys that is used for encryption as well as a decryption, and the second one is how to distribute this particular secret keys between the communicating parties. So a typical requirement in terms of the general communication, there are 4 keys that is required between the two communicating applications, one at the sender part as well as one at the receiver part. One is to transfer and the receive for both integrity as well as the confidentiality. So here the term integrity, as we have repetitively mentioned, integrity is nothing but the correctness of the data that is communicated between sender and receiver. The confidentiality is nothing but how intact privacy of the data has been retained while in the transit of the communication. So the IPsec architecture document mandates the support of two types of the key management that is required. One is the manual approach, in which the system administrator has to configure the end systems, each of the end systems, to have the own keys with the keys for other communicating systems. So this is usually could be implemented in a small organization level networks, wherein system admin can make sure that each individual user has a cryptographic keys, or the individual system is configured by the system administrator. So the second approach, this is practically for the small and relative static environments, wherein all the systems are fixed at individual parts. The second approach is automated one, in which dependent on the user needs, the keys are generated, which is why it is referred as on-demand key creations for each individual security associations. And the use of keys in a large distribution systems with the evolving configuration. It is not a fixed configuration on which the keys are generated and it is being managed. Dependent on how exactly it is implemented, dependent on the implementation, the key distribution will be configured. So the default automated key management protocol for IPsec is referred as ISA KMP bar Oakley, which comprises of two different elements. Here, ISA KMP is nothing but Internet Security Association and Key Management Protocol. Oakley is one of the key determination protocol that has been implemented. So, which makes use of the first protocol, which is referred as Oakley Key Determination Protocol. It is a key exchange protocol which works on the basic principle of Diffie-Hellman algorithm. At the same time, it provides the additional security. So it is generic in terms of it does not have the specific formats. There is no specific way in which the implementation has to be done. And the second algorithm or the second protocol that is being used is Internet Security Association and the Key Management Protocol, in abbreviated as ISA KMP. So which provides the framework for internet key management, as well as it provides the specific protocol support in terms of the message types that is being used, and the negotiation of the different security attributes that is being used for different key exchange algorithms. So here both of these cases wherein ISA, KMP as well as Oakley will not dictate or will not specifically mention a specific key algorithm exchange, key exchange algorithm. Instead, it will have the set of message types that could be used for variety of key exchange algorithms. But on the other note, ISA KMP does not have specificality, but Oakley is one of the specific key exchange algorithm that is used with the initial version of ISA KMP. So in Internet Key Exchange Protocol version 2, the Oakley as well as ISA KMP are no longer it is being used. There is a significant difference in terms of the use of Oakley as well as ISA KMP in IKE v1, but the basic functionality remains the same. So we'll next consider the IKE v2 specifically. So to understand IKE v2 in detail, first we have to discuss what is key determination protocol. So the IKE key determination is nothing but it is a refined version of Diffie-Hellman key exchange. So let us revisit how exactly the Diffie-Hellman key exchange happens. So we have two end users, which is user A and user B. The different set of interactions happens between A and B before the Diffie-Hellman key exchange. So first and foremost, the two parameter has to be considered for agreement between the communicating parties. First one is Q, which is a large prime number, and second one is alpha, which is referred as the primitive root of Q. So once these two parameters are agreed upon by the communicating parties, user A will select a random number XA as its private key. It selects one particular random number dependent on these two agreed upon parameters. So XA is considered as that particular private key. Then by making use of that particular XA, it calculates the public key of itself, that is the public key of A, which is calculated as alpha power XA mod Q, and this particular public key is communicated to the end device, that is end party, that is user B. So at once the user B receives the request or receives the public key of A, it calculates, it randomly selects a number which is XB, which is considered as a private key. Using that same mechanism, it calculates by making use of the by making use of XB, it calculates its public key, and that public key is sent to the user A. So here YA is nothing but the public key and public key of A, and YB is nothing but the public key of B. So once these two communicating parties have created their own private keys as well as the public keys, now they calculate a secret session key for the communication that will happen across them. So that secret key is calculated here as K is equal to YB par XA mod Q, or it could be calculated as this operation usually happens at the user A, it has the public key of user B and its private key. So public key power public key of the other user power its private key mod Q will give the session key for user A, and the public key of user A power its private key of user B mod Q will give the private key for the session key, secret session key for user B. This key will be constant, or this key will be same at either sides. So thus the key is communicated on either side. So Diffie-Hellman comes with the two attractive features. First one is the secret keys are created on the go, that is on demand, when it is required only when the secret keys are required. Thereby it is not the requirement of storing the keys for a longer period of time and is not required, thereby reducing the effect of the exposed to the increased vulnerability. And at the same time, in order to exchange the keys, the dedicated pre-existing infrastructure is not required apart from the agreement on two global parameters in terms of Q and alpha. Apart from that, though, no infrastructure is required, so that makes the Diffie-Hellman algorithm more attractive. At the same time, there are certain weaknesses that is pointed out in Diffie-Hellman key exchanges. So first point is that it will not provide any information regarding identities of the parties. So when the communication is happening, only the public keys are communicated at either sides. So that will not ensure whether the end user is a legitimate user or authentic user or not. So somewhere this poses a problem for Diffie-Hellman. The second part is that the Diffie-Hellman is exposed to the man in the middle attack. So man in the middle attack clearly means that, for example, a communication is happening between A and B, but somehow C in between impersonates B while communicating with A and impersonates A while communicating with B. So C is some third party or third user who is not authentic enough to communicate, be involved in the communication between A and B. But when it is communicating to B, he receives the data from A and he gives it to B. So while he gives it to B, he impersonates or he projects himself as user A. While the communication is between B to A, he receives the data from B and he sends it to A and he projects himself as user B. So this is referred as man in middle attack. So thereby he negotiates the keys from both A as well as B. So thereby he can listen to the entire traffic of communication that is happening between the two end users. So basically it implemented in very simpler way, wherein B sends his public key address to the user A, but the enemy who is C intercepts this particular message, saves the public key of the B, and sends the message to A. That B is user ID, but he sends his public key to the user A. Thereby, this message appears as if it is coming from users B. At the same time, B computes the secret key K1 based on the B's private key and the key that is received, the public key that is received from the enemy. Thus, B is completely exposed to E here. At the same time, the A will also repeat the operation, thus A is also completely exposed to C. Thus, C knows the secret key from B also and secret key from A also. Thus, any communication that is happening between A and B, now C can intercept and he can analyze the entire information that is being exchanged. So this particular attack, we are referring it as is man-in-middle attack, so which is very prone in the case of Diffie-Hellman algorithms. And finally, it is computationally very intensive. So at the each case, the sender has to select a random number, and then he has to calculate the public key, then he has to calculate the private key, and he has to send the public key. So from received public key, he has to calculate the secret session key. Thus the computation is very complex in this particular case, so which will result in the clogging attack separately here. So clogging attack is nothing but a situation wherein the opponent requests high number of keys. So as C we have considered, every now and then he goes on asking for the secret keys for the sessions which are no more available. So receiver becomes, or the victim spends considerable amount of time, since the calculation of secret key depends on calculation of the private key, then public key, then from receiver's public key he has to calculate the session key, so which involves subsequent amount of time. So victim will spend a lot of time computing these particular resources, so which will result in uh, reducing the overall effectiveness of the network. So now we have to consider the features of the IKE key distribution key determination protocol. So which has five important features. The first feature is that it implements mechanisms in terms of cookies, which will avoid or which will thwart the clogging attacks. Secondly, we have the key determination protocol will enable two end parties to negotiate a group. So thereby, global parameters could be specified easily for Diffie-Hellman key exchange. So it makes use of nonces to ensure against the replay attacks, which is used in ESP also. And then it enables the exchange of the Diffie-Hellman public key values. Then finally it authenticates the Diffie-Hellman exchange, so to avoid the man-in-middle attacks. So these are the five major features of the key determination protocol that is used in internet key exchange. So now we have to understand what is a clogging attack. So in this particular attack, the opponent or the enemy or an attacker forges the source address of the legitimate user and sends the public key to the victim. So he somehow impersonates the sender, and the request has been sent to the victim by making use of his Diffie-Hellman public key. Then the victim performs the modular exponential to compute the secret key. So the process involves receive the public key of the receiver, then calculate his private key as well as the public key. Making use of that, he has to calculate the session key. So if the attacker goes on sending this type of messages, that process is called as clog, then the victim system is clogged with a useless work. So to avoid that, the cookie exchange mechanism that is being used here. So here the cookie exchange needs that each side, that is sender or the receiver, has to send a pseudo random number, which is called as a cookie, in the first initial message that is been shared, for which an acknowledgement will be received. For every pseudo random number that is being sent, will receive a acknowledgement. Thus, if some other person is impersonating, he cannot send the actual acknowledgement that is required. So thereby, this acknowledgement has to be repeated in the first message of the Diffie-Hellman key exchange. So that has to be used once again in the Diffie-Hellman key exchange first message. So thereby, if the acknowledgement is matching, then I can clearly say that this is a legitimate user who is performing this key determination protocol. If not, it is kind of the clogging attack that is being implemented. If the source address was forced, then the opponent will not get any answer. Thus, now opponent can only force to generate the acknowledgement. Thus, by it is key exchange mandates three basic requirements. First one is for cookie generations. First one is the cookie must depend on a specific parties. So that means it is very specific to the end user. So which will prevent attacker from obtaining the cookie using the real IP address or the UDP port, then using it to the swamp victim with a request from the randomly chosen IP address. If this is very specific, the cookie is very specific, it becomes difficult for an attacker to generate that specific data. Second is, it must not be possible for anyone rather than the issuing entity to generate the cookies that will be accepted by that entity. So it should be very specific with respect to who is generating that particular cookie. So that means the issuing entity can use the local secret information in the generation, and at the same time for verification of the cookie. And it is not possible to understand the secret information from any of the other particular cookies. That means they are independent of each other. So the requirement at that particular point is that issuing entity need not save any particular cookies, which will make it more vulnerable for discovery. Then verifying an incoming cookie acknowledgement whenever it needs. Thus, it is not required to store the cookie that has been generated. So it has to just verify whether the received acknowledgement is cookie in the acknowledgement is correct or not. And finally, the cookie generation and the verification methods must be very fast in order to counter the attacks intended for the processing resource utilization. So it is recommended that using the cookie to perform the fast hash over IP resource and destination address, as well as the UDP source and destination ports, as well as the locally generated values. So IKE key determination supports different groups of Diffie-Hellman key exchange. So there are multiple implementations of Diffie-Hellman key exchange are possible, wherein each group has the definition. The common thing is that it has the definition of key, two global parameters and the identity of the algorithm. So the current specification includes the following groups. There are about 5 groups which we'll be considering. So the first group is modular expansion with 768-bit modules, which is a classic Diffie-Hellman algorithm by making use of modular expansion. The Q is calculated by this relation, and alpha value is taken as 2. And second, we have the extended version or the next version of the same, which is modular expansion with 1024-bit modulus. So the relation, the prime number value is largest prime number value is given by Q value here, and second value, that is alpha, which is nothing but the primitive root of q, is given by the value 2. So then we can have the modular expansion with 1536 bit modulus. The parameter has to be determined yet. Either then we can go for the elliptic curve group over 2 power 155, which makes use of hexadecimal generator, that is x is equal to 7b and y is equal to 1c8. Elliptic curve parameters in hexadecimal, where a is equal to 0 and y is equal to 7338f. For detailed understanding of elliptic curve group, elliptic curve encryption, you can refer the topics from the textbook I have mentioned. Since it takes more time to explain things over here, so I'll limit my explanation to the exact section. Then we have the elliptic curve group over 2 power 185. So here the hexadecimal values will be different, that is x is equal to 18 and y is equal to d, and a is equal to 0 and y is equal to 1 EE9. So the key determination here implemented on the three different authentication methods that could be used with the key determination. First one is the digital signatures. So here the exchange is authenticated by signing mutually the obtainable hash. Each party will encrypt the hash with its own private key. Then hash generated over the important parameters such as user IDs as well as the nonces. By making use of the digital signatures here, the exchange is authenticated. So each individual user will encrypt the hash function, calculate the hash function and encrypt the hash function with its own private key. And then we have the public key encryption, wherein the exchange between the sender and user is authenticated by encryption parameters such as IDs as well as announcers, by making use of the sender's private key. The sender can use to, instead of going for the digital signatures and then encrypting, he can directly encrypt the information by making use of just public key encryption. Then finally we have symmetric key encryption, wherein the key is derived by making use of some of the mechanisms which could be used to authenticate the exchange by symmetric encryption of the exchange parameters. So next we will consider how exactly internet key exchange protocol version 2 operation happens, the phases involved in IKE-v2. So we have the three phases in which the operation will be done. First one is initial exchanges, create child security association exchange, and informational exchange. We'll look into it one by one. First part is initial exchanger, wherein we have two different parts. One is initiator, one who is initiating this communication, and responder is one who responds to the communication that is happening. This could be your sender and this could be your destination. So initially, from initiator, two pairs of exchanges occurs, which are referred as initial exchanges. In the first exchange, two pairs will exchange the information regarding the cryptographic algorithms and other security parameters they are willing to use with the Diffie-Hellman values. So first, it will send the IKE header value. Here HDR stands for IKE header. Then we have SAI1, that is SA security association, which is offered by the chosen algorithm of the initiator. Then we have KEI, that is the Diffie-Hellman public key of the initiator. Then I have NI, that is nonces of the sender, for which the responder will reply back with its own information, that is SDR and security association of the responder, then the public key of the responder and the nonces of the responder. Along with that, the certificate request is sent. Following that, in the second phase, A special security association has been created dependent on the parameters for the secure channel between the users. All the subsequent IKE messages are protected by the encryption. So as we can clearly see here, along with the information the initiator has received, it will release this dependent on the certificate request. It will release the certificate which it is using, along with the ID of the responder with authentication function with the security association too, according to the dependent on the what uh, association that has been discussed, dependent on ACA I1 and as well as ACA R1. It will select one particular security association along with the traffic selectors for the security associations. This is for initiator and this is for the responder, and responder responds back with the same message. So here the MAC encryption is done here. This particular portion is uh, by making use of the MAC function, the hash code is calculated so that it is authenticated information that is being sent to the initiator. Then we'll consider the second phase, which we refer it as create child security exchange, wherein in the second phase it is used to establish the further SCAs for protecting the traffic. So which involves the operation in terms of the authentication of the nonces, individual nonces, as well as the traffic selectors for individual traffic IPsec SCAs we are making use of. Then we have the public key of sender, then we have public key of receiver here. So the same way the communication will happen. And the final one, we have informational exchange, which is nothing but which is used to establish the management information. So if there are error in the key exchanges, which are referred as IKE v2 error messages, and other notifications are given by the informational exchanges. So here D means that delete, N means that notify, and CP means that it is a configuration message. So next we'll consider the header and payload formats of Internet Key Exchange Key Determination Protocol. So it defines the different procedures as well as packets to establish and negotiate the modify, delete the security association. As the security establishment part is involved, it defines the payload for exchanging key generation as well as the key authentication of the data. So the payload formats are given by the framework independent of the specific key exchange protocol. Either I can go for OK key determination, or I can go for Internet Security Association and Key Management Protocol. The formats are independent of framework. So the key determination protocol comes with a header and payloads which are independent of the key exchange protocol that has been implemented. So first we'll consider the IKE header format. An IKE header format has one or more payloads. All of this is carried in a transport protocol. So the specification is dictated by implementation of UDP for the transport protocol, which comprises of the following fields. First one is SPI, that is at the initiator part, which is initiator security parameter index, which is 64 bits in length. So that is why we have two blocks of this. So each block is of 31 bits. So we have two blocks of SPI, which will make it 64 bits, which is used to identify a specific IKE security association, followed by which we have responder SPI, once again which is of 64 bits, which is used by the responder to identify a specific SA to have the negotiation with the initiator. Then we have next payload, which is of the length 8 bits, which will mention the type of the first payload in the message. So we'll consider what exactly are the types of the payload in the subsequent section. Next we have the major version, which is of 4 bits, which indicates the major version of the IKE that is in use, and the minor version, which is of 4 bits, which will indicate the minor version of the IKE that is in use. And then we have exchange type, which is of 8 bits, which is type of the exchange that is being used. And finally we have flags, which is of 8 bits, which will indicate the specific set of IKE exchange. So for now there are 3 bits that is been defined. Initiator bit indicates that so the transmitter is capable of higher major version than the currently indicated, and the response bit indicates that the response to the message containing the same message ID. Following this we have 32 bits of message ID, so which is used for the retransmission of the lost packets as well as matching of the request as well as the responses. And final field is your length, which is of once again 32 bits, which is total length of the message along with all the headers and payloads in octets. So then we'll consider the second type, which is generic payload header, which consists of first part, which is next payload, which is of 8 bits in length. This particular value, next payload field, has a value of 0 if this is the last payload in the message, else it will be having other values dependent on the type of the payload that is being used. So the payload length indicates the length of the octets in payload including the generic header. So then we have the factor C and reserved, which will indicate the type of the critical. C is nothing but the critical bit. If it is 0, then it means that the sender wants to send the recipient to skip this payload if it is not understanding the type of the payload. If it is set to 1, the sender wants to know the recipient the entire message. So coming to the next concept, now we have understood the IKE formats and headers. Next we have to consider the payload types that are possible. So this particular table gives you a brief discussion on the types of the IKE payload types that is present. We'll consider one by one. So first one is SCA payload. The SCA payload here has the parameters in terms of proposals, which is used to begin an establishment of security association between initiator and a responder. So this particular payload is very complex and it has hierarchical structure. It may contain multiple proposals within it. Each proposal may further again multiple protocols it might have. Each protocol, once again, multiple transforms are possible, and each transform may be having multiple attributes. Thus, this structure itself is a complex format. It can be sub-formatted in terms of substructures, in terms of proposals, transform, and attribute. So proposal here means that which will be having a number followed by the protocol ID, whether AH is implemented, ESP is implemented, or IKE is implemented, and it will have the number of transforms that is being used. Along with that, the transform substructure is given. If the more than one protocol is implemented, then it will have subsequent proposal architecture with the same proposal number. Then we have transform. Transform is nothing but different protocols use different mechanism or different mathematical operation. Transform is nothing but mathematical operation that has been implemented. So the transforms are primarily defines the type of the cryptographic algorithm that is being used with specific to the protocol. With AH I have different transforms or mathematical operation with relation to cryptographic function, and with relation with ESP we have different operations that is involved. The final one is attribute. In attribute, the transforms may have different attributes in order to modify and complete the specifications inside the transform. For example, I can have padding length, I can have the key length. So these are the attributes of the transforms. So then the second field we are dealing with, or the second payload we are dealing with, is key exchange protocol. So which is used for the different key exchange techniques, such as DH group is nothing but Diffie-Hellman key exchange, or I may have Oakley, or I may have RSA based key exchange that is used in PGP. So the key exchange data gives the data required to generate the session keys, how exactly to retrieve the session keys or the secret keys, and it depends on the key exchange algorithm that is being used. And the third payload type is identification payload, which is specifically used to determine the identity of the communicating parties, or sometimes it is used for the determination of the authenticity of the information. So ID data field will have either it is IPv4 data or IPv6 data. Then we have certificate payload, which gives you an information regarding the public key certificate transfer. So certificate encoding field involves the type of the certificate that is required for this particular transmission of the communication, and the related informations, which may have the following types, that is PKCS wrapped in the X509 certificates, PGP certificates, DNS signed key, X.509 certificate, signature, key exchange. It could be Kerberos tokens, it can be certificate revocation list SRL, authority revocation list SRL, or it could be SPKI certificates. So the next data type is the payload type is certificate request. At any instant of IKE exchange, the sender or the initiator may include a certificate request to request the certificate of the other communicating party. So that is initiated by sending a certificate request payload. So the payload may have more than one certificate type in that node, which is acceptable. So more than one certificate authority is also acceptable in this particular case. So the next payload type is authentication payload, which comprises of the message authentication method that is used, which is specifically used for the authentication purpose. So as of now, the authentication method that has been used is RSA digital signature, shared key message integrity code, and DSS digital signature code. Then we have nonce payload, which contains a random data which is used to generate the liveliness of the data during the exchange to protect against the replay attacks, which might have the sequence number feasibility also. Then we have the notify payload, which is very specifically used to notify the initiator or the responder regarding the error or the status of the information that is associated with each of the security associations or the security association negotiations. So following are the table which lists the types of the IK notify messages. So unsupported critical means that the error messages are in terms of unsupported critical, payload invalid internet key SPI, invalid major versions and invalid syntax, invalid payload type, invalid message ID, invalid SPI. These are the types of the error messages. Similarly, these are the status messages. So the notify payload is used to specify these kind of information that is being communicated. Then we have delete payload, so which indicates that one or more SIs that sender has deleted from its database Uh, Therefore, they are no longer valid for the communication. Then we have vendor ID, which consists of vendor ID payload, which consists of the vendor defined constant. The service received by an vendor, he'll specify a type of the service that is required. So this constant is used by the vendor to identify and recognize the remote instances of their implementations. So this will somewhere allow the different vendors to experiment among themselves with the new features which adapts to their requirements. Then we have traffic selectors payload, which will allow the pairs to identify the type of the packet flows for processing the IPsec services. Then we have encrypted payload, which consists of the payloads in the encrypted format. So, which is very similar to that of what we have considered in ESP, which will optionally it can have initialization values or vectors also if the encryption requires the same, and it can have ICV values also, that is integrity check values also if authentication is implemented. Then we have the configuration payload, which is used for the exchange of the configuration information between the initiator and the responder. And finally, we have extension authentication protocol, that is EAP payload, which will allow the internet key exchange security associations to be authenticated by making use of a service which is called as extensible authentication protocol. So coming to the last part of IP security, which is the cryptographic suites, both IPsec v3, that is IP security protocol version 3, and internet key exchange protocol version 3 depends on the different set of the cryptographic algorithms for their proper functioning. So each of these cryptographic algorithms has variety of parameters in terms of their key size, in terms of the mathematical operations that is being done, the modulation that is being done. So to promote the interoperability between them, so there are two RFCs that is been uh, defined, which will mention or which will recommend the cryptographic algorithm suites and the parameters for each of the various applications. So the first RFC is RFC 4308, which will define the two cryptographic suites for establishing the virtual private network suites. One is VPN-A and other one is VPN-B. VPN-A matches the commonly used corporate VPN security that is used in the initial version, that is IKE v1 implementations. And the suit, cryptographic suit VPN-B, provides a stronger security, and it is required for the newer VPNs that implement IPsec v3 or IKE v2. So these are the list of the algorithms and the parameters for the two different suits that is being used. Uh, Initially, there are several points that has to be noted about these two suits. For symmetric cryptography, if it is implemented, then VPN-A relies on triple DS as well as HMAC algorithm, wherein VPN-B relies on AES algorithm. So that we can clearly see here. If the symmetric encryption is used, VPN-A goes for triple DS and VPN-B goes for advanced encryption standard. There are three types of secret key algorithm that is being used. One is the encryption. For encryption, the cipher block chaining mode is used, that is CBC. For message authentication, VPN-A relies on HMAC with SHA-1 with the output truncated to the 96 bits, but VPN-B relies on variants of CMAC with the output which is truncated to the 96 bits. And the pseudo-random functions that is used for VPN-A is in terms of HMAC SHA-1, repeated use of the MACs for the message authentications. Here also we are making use of the different function in this particular case. So RFC 6379 defines the 4 different cryptographic optional suites that are compatible with United States National Security Agency, that is NSA, suite B specifications. So which somewhere refined the algorithms and strengths in order to protect both sensitive as well as unclassified and classified informations for use of cryptographic modernization program. So all these 4 suites are defined in RFC 6379, chooses or provides the choices in terms of ESP as well as IKE. So the 4 suites are differentiated by the choose of the cryptographic strengths and the choice of whether ESP is to provide the confidentiality and integrity or the integrity only. All these suites offer the greater protection than earlier 2 VPNs that is defined in terms of RFC 4308. So for encryption here, the authenticated encryption is provided by the GCM mode in either 128-bit key or the 256-bit key. For IKE encryptions, we will be making use of the cipher block mode, that is CBC, with 128 bits bit key, and here it is 256 bits key, and similarly the same has been implemented here for VPN suites. The message authentication in this particular node, if only authentication is required on that node, the GMAC implementation is done. GMAC is nothing but the authentication portion of the GMC, wherein for IKE the authentication is provided by making use of HMAC with one of the SHA-3 algorithm. All of this make use of the HMAC algorithm for creating the message authentication. And for pseudo-random function, IKE, as with VPN suites, IKE v2 in these suites generates the pseudo-random functions by repeated make use of the MAC algorithms. All of this make use of the MAC algorithm, repeated use of the MAC in order to generate the message authentication. By making use that, the pseudo-random function is generated. So for Diffie-Hellman key exchange algorithm, the elliptic curve groups are used for modulation of the prime is specified. For authentication, it makes use of the digital signatures, and the original IKE v2 documents are used in RSA based on the digital signatures. So in this particular module, we have discussed the concepts related to IP security. We have started off with the IP security overview, wherein we considered the applications benefits of IPsec and the documents and services provided in IPsec. We had a brief discussion on what is transport mode and what is tunnel mode. Then in the second part, we considered the IP security policy, wherein we understood the concept of security associations. We considered what is security association database, security policy database, and how exactly the IP traffic processing is implemented in terms of inbound traffic and outbound traffic. Then we considered the concept of encapsulating security payload in terms of ESP, the format, the frame format, the different types of encryption and authentication algorithms possible, how exactly the anti-replay service is implemented, and the transport and tunnel mode operations of ESP we have discussed. We consider the concept of the combinations of security associations. It is not that for different application needs only one mode or one particular protocol will provide all the services. Not AH will provide all the services, or not ESP will provide all the services. So the combinations of these security associations are incorporated in order to provide the better service. So we considered authentication plus confidentiality. Then we had considered the basic combinations of security associations. And finally, we considered the concept of internet key exchange, the operation principle of key determination principle, the header and payload formats and types. And finally, we considered the cryptographic suits. So that is about this particular module, wherein we have discussed the concepts related to the IP security. Thank you so much.